Senator Bernie Sanders spoke to Chris Hayes on MSNBC regarding the coronavirus relief package, and he certainly wants to move forward by doing this through reconciliation, which would only require a simple majority in the Senate to pass the package. And considering there are 50 Democrats in the Senate, with Kamala Harris serving as the tie-breaking vote, it's something that can certainly be done. And he shares more details on this in the next video. Let's take a quick look.
Now is not the time to count pennies. Now is the time to address these monumental crises. What worries me is so many, by the millions, of our people are giving up on democracy. They really do not believe that the government is listening or understands their pain and can respond. We are the majority right now because two great candidates ran in Georgia. And that Georgia election really became a national election, and promises were made in that election, not just by the candidates, but by many of us. And what we said is, if you elect Democrats and we take control, we're gonna get you, $1,400 on top of the $600. We're gonna extend unemployment. We're gonna significantly increase the child tax credit. We're gonna get money to states and cities. We are gonna deal with education. Those were the promises made, and it would be totally unacceptable for any Democrat to renege on those promises. That is why people are giving up on the political process.
One day before the Senate runoff races took place in Georgia, Joe Biden was rallying to try to help get the Democrats elected. And guess what? He realized how popular $2,000 direct checks are to Americans during this moment of crisis. And he said, let's get the Democrats elected. Let's get Perdue and Loeffler out of office. And we won't have that obstacle anymore. We'll get you $2,000 relief checks. And guess what? That has not happened yet, and that is an issue. And so I love that Senator Sanders is bringing that up. One point that I need to mention, it's a point of clarification. So even though we have a new Senate now, even though we have Democrats with a slim majority in the Senate, the Senate rules package hasn't passed yet. Meaning that when it comes to the committees and who chairs the committees, the Senate is still functioning or operating as it was in the previous Congress. So you still have, let's say, Lindsey Graham, for instance, as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. But once that rules and procedures package passes, they've already agreed on it. Once they vote on it and it passes, at that point, Bernie Sanders will be the chair of the Senate Budget Committee, and that's why he has the power to pass a more robust coronavirus relief package through reconciliation, through that simple that simple majority. Now, who's serving as an obstacle to all of this? Well, unfortunately, Biden appears to have some economic advisors who are pulling him in the wrong direction. Bloomberg reported at least two of Biden's top economic advisors, Heather Boushey and David Kamen, have privately expressed reservations about the size of the direct checks and at what level they would begin to phase out for higher income people. And that's according to three people familiar with the internal discussions. So these economic advisors are going with the same talking points that we're hearing from Republicans who are trying to nickel and dime Americans who are suffering during this economic downturn, of course, tied to the coronavirus. Just to give you some numbers, 18 million Americans were receiving unemployment benefits as of last month. Also, from December of 2019 to December of 2020, unemployment rates increased significantly in 45 states and the District of Columbia. The national unemployment rate currently sits at 6.7%, but it's been unchanged over the last month. I should note that the unemployment rate is 3.1% percentage points higher today compared to December of 2019. Now, why am I giving you that time frame? Because when they means test who qualifies for the government aid, they do it based on your 2019 tax filings. And a lot of people lost their jobs since 2019 because of the pandemic. Means testing people right now, to begin with, is an awful idea. Applying more means testing so less people qualify for financial aid right now based on 2019 tax filings is even worse. Biden would be making a huge mistake if he listens to the idiots who are advising him on the economy right now.
Yeah, so those neoliberals gonna neoliberal, and again, it's the group think, and they think, oh no, the deficit, and oh my God, and we got to work with Republicans. Why? Okay, so first of all, not a single American cares whether you pass it through reconciliation or a filibuster or anything. All they care about is, wait, are you going to deliver on your promise or aren't you? Are we going to get the money and the relief and the vaccines, or aren't we? I don't give a goddamn if you pass it through reconciliation or something else. Come on, media. Have you ever met a normal person, an actual human being that votes? Have you ever seen them talking about, oh my God, I hope they don't do it through reconciliation. There is Senate etiquette to be concerned about. I mean, they're just unreal. So, and Biden and the Democrats, if you weren't going to give people $2,000 or you weren't going to do the other things that you promised, what you should have said in the campaign ads and on the stump was, and now everybody remember, if you vote for the Democrats, we're gonna get you that $2,000. Well, of course, unless Joe Manchin disagrees, and he almost certainly will, and then unless the Republicans filibuster, and then unless I agree to their filibuster, and unless Susan Collins agrees, and then you might get 1,400, but not most of you won't though, because we'll lower the qualification down to $40,000. Okay, then you should have been honest and said all of that. You shouldn't have told them you're gonna get the $2,000 check, because that it turns out you didn't mean it. And the thing is, you actually had a good bill, the 1.9 trillion bill, the one that you proposed. So normally we ask for more because normally the Democratic leadership offers a paltry amount. This one wasn't bad, it could have been better, but I told you just yesterday, I actually think it's not that bad, right? And of course, you got victory? No, we got to snatch that away and put defeat in there because of how incompetent they are. Okay, now last point, guys. Just think about it logically, and this is indisputable. When they say, even though, the White House spokesperson said this the other day, so they know it for a fact. Even though 3/4 of Americans, not just Democratic voters, all voters, want the higher relief bill, we are going to prioritize our relationship with Republican politicians over the voters and give you the lower amount that you don't want. Because Mitch McConnell and Susan Collins and Joe Manchin wanted us to. So the voters matter less than Republican politicians. That is the exact message that Joe Biden is sending if he makes this deal with the lower amounts to appease Republican politicians. And if you don't think that's dumb politics, you're just wrong. That's why Democrats have lost all of these elections. They lost 1,000 seats under Obama. And Biden only won by 44,000 votes. He was supposed to blow Trump away after all the monstrous things that Trump did for 4 years. He won by 44,000 votes, barely squeaked it out. Why? Because they constantly tell you the Republicans are right and that they are wrong. It is the world's dumbest politics.
I mean, this is such a layup. There's a reason why Joe Manchin was furious with Vice President Kamala Harris when she went to West Virginia to do, local news interviews to talk about the coronavirus relief bill. He was upset because that relief bill polls real well with his constituents. And Cenk, to your point, I do want to give you some statistics on where Americans currently stand nationwide regarding coronavirus relief. This was one of the latest surveys done by Pew Research Center, and here's what they found. Following the passage of a second stimulus package in December in response to the impact of the coronavirus outbreak, 79% of US adults say another economic assistance package will be necessary. Just 20% say another package will not be needed. Nearly 2/3 of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, 65%, say an additional package will be necessary, compared with about 9 in 10, 92% Democrats and Democratic leaners who say more coronavirus aid will be needed. Direct checks, if you take direct checks as a standalone bill, $2,000 direct checks to Americans, and you pull on that, tremendously popular. 67% of Americans are in favor of that. Meaning that even Republican voters are in favor of that, because guess what? People are struggling right now. But Democrats, Biden administration, let's run away from the idea of ever being popular. Let's run away from actually representing the best interests of people during a crisis. I mean, this is such a layup, and they're of course bungling it, because you're right, Cenk, the part of the equation that doesn't get talked about enough is what the donors want. And the donors do not want to increase their taxes. They don't want to, deal with any type of wealth redistribution to people who, by the way, have worked hard, who have paid their taxes, who have done everything right, but through no fault of their own were laid off and now are struggling economically because of the pandemic. They don't want to help them out. It's just so, Biden needs to wake up, because 2 years from now, the midterm elections, it's gonna be a bloodbath. Democrats are gonna lose the majority in the House and the Senate easily. And then 4 years from now, if this trend continues, I'm worried we're gonna have someone worse than Trump in the White House, someone who might be just as awful and authoritarian and fascistic, but might be a little more clever than Trump was.
Yeah, last thing, you mentioned 80% of Americans want the relief, 20% say no. An amazing coincidence, the relief for the Democrats was cut off at 75,000, right? 82% of Americans make under 75,000 a year, 18% make over 75,000. 80-20, kind of an interesting coincidence. Now, do you want to know what percentage of large donors are in the 20% that make more than 75,000? 100% of the large donors are in that class. So even though they're a tiny sliver of the political pie of the voting electorate, they're the entirety of the donor class. And look at that. It looks like they might win again. I'm sure it's an amazing coincidence. Media, you wouldn't want to cover the donors. People might find out the truth.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.